Hello, welcome to Rolls and Replays, the board game show from us here at the M.T.V.B podcast. On this episode, we're going to be teaching you how to play Marvel United, which is released by Simon Games as a game for 1 to 4 players. So let's start getting this to the table and show you guys how to give this a go. Start off, guys, for what you do, you need to separate your tokens first. So you have your thugs, your civilians, you have your threats, your health, your attack, forward, wild, heroic actions, and your crisis tokens, and make sure they're all in separate piles to the side of the board, guys. Okay, guys, so make sure you place this one at the center of your table here, and at the bottom you've got 3 separate gaps here, and you'll need these cards to go anywhere on these sections here. So one is to rescue civilians, you have another one to defeat thugs, and your other card should say to clear threats. And now you need to determine which bag are you going to play with today. So the box comes with 3 villains, and as a introductory one you should be playing with Red Skull, so that's the one we're going to be using for this playthrough. Okay, and then just slide his card at the top like so. Okay, the core box also comes with 8 location cards. Now you need to pick 6 out of these, but one of them does need to include the Avengers Tower, so essentially you're going to be picking the next 5 or so. So just randomly pick the next 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to place them on the board. Okay, so you're going to place your location cards around the board like so. Make sure that you have the end turn phase sticking out of the side of the board like so. And as you can see on the locations, there are printed parts where they have thugs and civilians, so you need to fill those up with the tokens that we showed earlier on. So let's do that now. Okay, so with our Red Skull villain, he will come with 6 threat cards, which we need to place at the end of our location cards, like so. Okay, and the game also comes with 6 little threat tokens, which we're going to place on the corners of the locations, like so. And then Red Skull will have his own deck, which they call the Master Deck in this game. Give it a shuffle, and then place those cards to the side of the board. And then Red Skull requires a little Tesseract token to go on his board, which goes there at the mark of 0. Okay, so now the players need to decide which Avengers they're going to be playing with. Now, just a heads up, our version of the game has painted minis. The minis do not come painted in this, so just a heads up for if you buy the game, they will not come painted. Okay, so we picked our 3 Avengers, which is Captain America, Iron Man, and Hulk. Anytime you play this game, they always have to start at Avengers Tower, so we place our minis on here like so. And no matter where you are on the board, the enemy will always be opposite to the Avengers. So on the board like so, we'll place him like so. Right, so every villain has a different way of how they will be defeated, so we need to go back to the board and show how that's done. So on the side of the card here for Red Skull, it shows you for the number of players, the health that Red Skull will have. So for 2 players, 3 players, and 4 players. So for 3 players, we need to take 8 of our health tokens and place those on top of his character card like so. So as you can see, he now has 8 health tokens on his board. And then they always have different ways of how things will either have a BAM effect, how things will overflow like so, and how the actual villainous plot of the enemy is. So for example, if the Tesseract or the Fear Track as it's called on this card ever reaches to the number 20, Red Skull wins immediately. If his Master Deck ever runs out in the game, he wins immediately. And the Avengers have to beat the 8 health off of him of 2 ways. And the ways to do that is to do any of these 3 here in any order you want. So if they save enough civilians, if they defeat enough thugs, or if they've cleared enough threats from any of the locations here. And I'll explain how that does in a moment. So back to the Red Skull here. If any of these cards have a BAM effect, you do what it says on the card here like so. If any of these locations overflow with any civilians or any thugs on here, refer back to the card and some other action will happen. And also when a BAM effect comes into play, there are certain locations on the board that have a BAM effect as well. So we'll go into that right now. So for example, if the Red Skull card comes up with a BAM symbol on it, obviously Red Skull is not in the location, so Hulk would not suffer a damage from him. But unfortunately, Red Skull has a villain or psychic in this location, so it has a BAM effect, so that we have to do whatever the card says, and it could be a case of losing health or placing a token on certain characters. Just read what the card says and you know exactly what to do. Okay, so let's go to the Avengers action and how they work. Every Avenger has their own deck of 12 cards. You draw 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You look at your cards, and then at the start of your turn you always draw another card. So you should start with 5 to start with. So let's go for example of the cards that you will have in the game and explain the symbols of what they do. So for example, let's go from here. So this symbol here means it's an attack. This symbol here is a heroic action. This symbol here is to move your character. And this symbol here is a wild, so you can do any one of these 3 things here as a wild instead, okay? Right, so on your turn out, the 5 cards you have, you need to place one of those to start moving around or start saving civilians or start defeating thugs. So what we'll do is we will place a card onto the board. Now, this is what they call in the game a storyline. If any card refers to saying a storyline, you will be placing cards around the edge of the board, and that is essentially what the storyline will be. So starting with Captain America, he's going to be placing a move forward card onto the board like so. Now, when you only have 1 movement, so we can decide whether to move left or right. You don't have to go in any order at all. So for example, let's move Captain America 1 space. And that's his action done. And now we go to the next Avenger, which will be Hulk. Okay, so this is the unique part of the game. So what happens is now is that Hulk's going to place a card, but of course you're the Avengers, you work together. So now Hulk will place his card next to Captain America. So now he has a movement and a heroic action at the same time, but he can do it in any way he wants to. So let's go to the board and see how we do that. So you can do these in any order. So a heroic action is how you save civilians in this game. So for example, we can use that heroic action to save the civilian. And when you save civilians, you add them to the little section here. And then we're going to use our movement for Captain America. And we can move anywhere on the board, like so. So now it's Iron Man's turn. And the same thing happens again, but you only do the ability of the card that's next to him. So now he won't get Captain America's ability. It will be Hulk's as well as his own card. So Iron Man will place his card right now. So now how this works is an attack, a movement, and an heroic action in any order Iron Man wants to do. So let's say, for example, Iron Man will move. Iron Man will attack. So he defeats the thug. The thug gets added to the card here like so. And he'll use his last action, the heroic action, to save a civilian. And once again, add it to the card there. Now, in this game, Red Skull will come out on every 3rd card that is placed on the storyline. So as you can see, all 3 of our Avengers have had a turn. So now it's Red Skull's turn. So we're going to place a card into the storyline. So Red Skull will now have a movement of 4. And he will BAM on that location. So we will take Red Skull right now and move him clockwise around the board. 1, 2, 3, 4. So he is now BAMmed both these characters. So these characters will lose their health, and I'll explain that in a moment. But on the card, it also indicates that people will get added to the board. So for example, 2 thugs will get added to this location, and 1 thug will get added to the adjacent locations, like so. Now, as you can see, we were just 1 away from an overflow. So let's go back to overflow with Red Skull's board. So if that location actually ever overflowed, we go to this little section of the board here like so. And it says here that if a thug or a civilian can't be placed in the location, then the fear track itself will go up by 1. And this is how this will work every time. So anything that gets overflowed, this will move down more. And if it ever hits to 20, Red Skull will win the game. Okay, so then it's back to the Avengers' turn. So Captain America goes first, and he's going to be placing two heroic actions onto the board. So even though Red Skull is in between the Avengers here, you still get to do the ability of the other card. So Captain America will have 2 heroic actions, a movement, and an attack at the same time. Now, at the moment, he can't attack Red Skull, and I'll explain why in a moment. But for now, he can actually get rid of this threat. This threat has already 1 heroic action on it. So if he spends his 2 heroic actions on the card, it will get rid of a threat. And then we move the threat token to the center of the board. And that's how you get rid of threats in the game. Now, let me explain about hitting Red Skull. So you can't actually hit Red Skull very first thing. You need to get rid of some of the civilians or the thugs in this game. So let's go into how that works. So for example, we have 1 more civilian left to save. And if we did that, the card is filled. And that now means it comes off the board like so. And now what happens is the villain's card will come out every 2 cards instead of every 3 cards, which used to be. So now his cards will come out even more. And it's more of a chance of Red Skull to win the game because more of his cards will be out every 2 instead of every 3. Now, if we did the same with the thugs, so let's say all these thugs were complete, this will now come off the board. And now it says the villain is vulnerable to be attacked. So now we can attack him because we've cleared 2 threats off of the center board. And it doesn't matter how the ones are done. If you did these first and civilians, for example, that will still count as a 2, and he will be vulnerable to be attacked that turn. So now it's Hulk's turn. So let's give an example of how we can move to Red Skull and start attacking him. So now with Hulk's turn, he can use the abilities of the Captain America card that's here. So essentially he has 2 movement and 2 attacks. So let's show how that's done on the board here. We'll move Hulk twice. 1, 2, because you can do it in any order it is. And then you can hit him twice. So what we do essentially is get rid of 2 tokens from the center of the board there. Now he's left of 6 out of 8 hits so far. So yeah, it's basically just about working together, placing the right cards at the right time if you have them. But let's talk about how the Avengers can get hurt by Red Skull and other team members. So on your turn, you start with 4 cards and you'll always draw up to 5. But if you get bammed or hit by Red Skull or another thug, you essentially are losing a card. It goes into the bottom of your deck. So the cards here are essentially your health. If you ever get down to your final one and get your final bammed, you are KO'd. No one ever actually dies in this game. It's what they call a KO. And all you do is simply is put your figure down onto the floor, you miss a turn for a round, and then you come back and you draw up to 4 cards with the leftover cards that you have, and you're essentially back in the game. Now let's just talk about the minions that they have on certain threat locations. So let's go to the board for that one as well. Unlike Red Skull, you do not need to clear thugs or civilians to attack these thugs here, or sidekicks as you will. They have a health, which is noted on the card itself. And all you can do is just simply go there and use a attack card to do that. You do not need to clear anything like so. And once they're off the board, remove their card. And at the end of your turn, you simply do what the location says. So this one here says, at the end of my turn, I may rescue a civilian from this location. So we do that, and that's done. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You just basically need to work as a team, place the right cards at the right time before Red Skull can finish his master deck, as well as other things here where you will have to try and not make sure that the fear track gets to 20, or if any overflows happen, or obviously if any bams happen as well, just read the effect of what the card does. And every villain is completely different in this game. So anyone that you pick will always have a different outcome or a different way of winning. But also, if they ever finish their master deck, that's another way for them to win every time. And also, if you're not aware about Marvel United, it comes with a vast amount of expansions from X-Men to Fantastic Four to Guardians of the Galaxy. All are completely compatible with the core box here. There might be some slight little differences in the rules, but obviously the instructions will tell you and how to explain to them, but it's pretty much the same, and the world is your oyster with a vast amount of characters as well that are completely playable, and all different villains as well. Just again, make sure that you check out their villainous plot of how they can win, as well as obviously running out of their master deck. So yeah, that's pretty much how to play Marvel United the simplest way. If I've forgotten anything, then guys, please leave a comment and let us know, and we'll go back and correct it, whatever you want to do. But that's pretty much it. If you like what you saw, then please give us a like, a share, a comment, and subscribe. It goes a long, long way for us. And hope you enjoy the game. It's been out for a while now, but I love this game. Love going back to it. And, you know, like I said, grab some expansions if you can and enjoy.